This is FYI on your TV, brought to you by Hometown News. I'm Kathy Botham. I've got Adrianna Michelle back with me. Thanks for joining us again.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Now, we're going to talk about Be a Donor Month, and who better to talk to than you? Oh, my goodness. You have had two heart transplants, so literally you're on your third heart.
Yes, yeah.
And it's been 5 years on April 8th when you got your second heart transplant, too. I can't believe it's been 5 years.
It doesn't feel like 5 years. It still feels like yesterday sometimes, but yeah, it's wild to think about. And I definitely didn't realize, like, I knew I was sick, I knew I wasn't doing well, but it wasn't until I got my new heart that I really realized how sick I truly was. So
Because you were starting to feel so bad, much better?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. And
yeah.
like even still, like it hasn't really been until the last 2 years. I've started to use a frequency medicine device, and it's really turned my health around.
Well, and I got to mention, like 5 years ago, you were supposed to be here on the FYI set.
Yes, yes,
And
exactly.
you got a call to get your heart. And you texted a mutual friend of ours, Tammy Carpenter, and said, "Can you let Kathy know I'm on my way? I'm going to miss FYI. I'm going to get my heart." So
Yeah.
I don't know whether I told you this, but I've printed it off and I have it up on my wall in my office. I just think, oh, that was just amazing that you thought of us here at FYI on your way to get a heart, girl. Jeepers.
Well, priorities, you know.
Oh wow! Oh my goodness, you're amazing. You're amazing. So you're literally on your third heart.
Yeah,
This is be a
yeah.
donor. This is be a donor month. So we're here to talk about that too. The importance of people signing up to be a donor and what a difference they can make.
Yeah, so I've had two heart transplants, like you say. So I was born with congenital defects, and I had four heart surgeries starting at 2 days old, and four heart surgeries by 8 months old, and then waited for a transplant. And then when I was 19, I went into cardiogenic shock. There was another heart surgery, and of course, was again not able to fix the issue. The heart was too damaged. So I went on the wait list. So by 21 years old, I had lived 4 years in heart failure, two heart transplants, and five heart surgeries.
Wow.
So organ donation, the first heart really gave me the gift of childhood because it was with me from 2.5 to 19, or sorry, 2.5 to 21. But it really started giving me issues when I was 19. And it's just, excuse me, it's just so crazy to think about. Um, you know, I didn't get to grow up with the heart I was born with. And in my healing journey, like I'm a mindset practitioner, and one of the things I've really had to deal with is actually mourning the loss of the hearts, and accepting the one that I have now. It's such a gift, and it's a miracle to even happen, because both times I was on my deathbed, and I was months, if not days, away from passing. So it's amazing how a transplant is a rebirth. So it's it's so timing, like divine timing, that I get a transplant in spring when everything is, coming back to life and starting to bloom again. And it's taken me a few years to bloom. Um, but we're finally doing better, and I've had great health. The last few years, I have back issues now. Like the misconception of a transplant is that when you get a transplant, it's tickety boo and everything's great. And I still, I find that I'm tired. I have back pain and stuff, but it's nothing compared to what it was like living in heart failure. And there's still, like I've lost friends due to not being able to receive their heart in time, or their organ in time. And it's so hard to watch not only them go through it, but their family, because Adriana's army, but at every transplant, anybody with an illness, we all have our own army around us of our friends and our family and our community. And it really, the impact of a transplant goes beyond just the recipient. And of course, every time I have an anniversary, and I think about them every day, but I think about my donor's family, and I'm so grateful that they went through with the choice of respecting my donor's wishes. Um, because it's so important. Like, if you really have to discuss with your family your wishes, what you want done, um, in the unfortunate event of something happening to you. It's really important, and I can't stress that enough, for your family and your immediate, your emergency contacts to understand and respect your wishes of organ donation. There's still over 1,200 people in Ontario waiting for a transplant, and it's just, I every time I look at the statistics numbers, it's just heartbreaking to me. Um, and still, like, we're 5 years later, there's still just as many people on the transplant list, and there's still people dying every 3 days due to not receiving an organ. And it's so sad that, I'm not, it's not just Adrianna's Army that does organ donation awareness. There's so many in the community now. But it's so sad to see those numbers, I find. um, like, as much as people agree with it, maybe they don't go through and do the proper paperwork of of making it known on your health card that you're an organ donor. And it only takes 8 minutes to do. You go on to beadonor.ca and you fill it out, and you get paperwork in the mail to confirm. And it's such an easy process, but it's unfortunate that there's not more donors.
You know what? And like Adrianna, you come on here every year, and you came here before you even had your second heart transplant and was talking about it. You're here. You're a voice for Be a Donor. You've been doing that, but like you are also a voice for any family member who has had a family member pass away and give a donor kidney, heart, lungs, whatever. You are a voice for those
Yeah,
families listening, saying, you don't know who your donor is, right?
I don't
You
know. I
don't
don't
know.
know either of them, actually.
No,
It's
so
it's
but
very
you're a
confidential.
voice. If anybody's listening and you've had a family member pass away and their organs were donated, Adrianna is a voice. Listen, this is what happens. This is what happens when your family members donate, and this is what can happen when you sign your donor card too. You're a voice for people that are listening that have done it with their family. So I just want to say that.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. And it's also important to keep in mind that there's so many things that we can do, not just when we pass away, but while we're living. Like, there's blood donation, there's stem cells, there's so many things now, that you can do just by being alive and helping other people. And something, when I do talk to people about organ donation, something that brings them comfort is knowing that a part of their loved one still lives on, whether it's may not be with the person anymore, but it's that comfort of knowing that some of them is still on this earth, they're still living, they're still keeping someone else going. And I think that that's a really beautiful concept, and I really try to shift the perspective onto that it helps your loved one stay alive.
And you are a perfect example of that. And I so appreciate you sharing your story with everybody because you are a voice for that as well.
Oh, thank you. I really appreciate it. And thank you for having me on here to explain all of this as well.
And you are doing well too. You've been busy. You're still doing your counseling, and you're working with a wellness center as well in Osgood too. So you've been busy.
Yeah,
And
yeah. So it's amazing because um you know transplants and mental health, they go quite together, even though I didn't realize it as much as at the time. So I'm an alternative mindset practitioner, so I help people release their traumas and just coping mechanisms for every day, because I myself am diagnosed with PTSD, depression, anxiety. But it's amazing what these alternative ways can do for us when we just sit with ourselves, and we can figure out our mind. And such a powerful thing to do, is to be able to go within yourself and release that anxiety, and release, do that deep releasement that occurs when a traumatic event happens in our
Absolutely.
lives.
Absolutely.
So it's so fascinating to me to explore the subconscious and release and bring yourself that freedom and, you know, rebirth again. Because when we're stuck in our limiting beliefs, we can't move forward. And I know for me, like, I wouldn't be able to share my story if I didn't do that inner work. So
And
it's
you're,
really important.
in turn, you're sharing your skills with other people to help them through it too. So
Absolutely,
you
absolutely.
are amazing. You are amazing. So proud to have gotten to know you and you being part of our FYI team here too. So once again, to be a donor, how do people do that?
Yes, so they can go to beadonor.ca, and it's right there on the homepage. It only takes 8 minutes to do. I have Adrianna's Army as well, and you can go through the link on my Facebook page, and it'll bring you to another 8 minute, the same 8 minute process of, of just signing up to be an organ donor.
Absolutely. April is Be a Donor Awareness Month, so that's what we're here today to talk about, and who better to do that than Adrianna Michelle. Thank you very much for joining us today, Adrianna. And,
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
and take care. We'll be back soon and we'll talk to you again.